Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host Krabby Terror 8 and here we are in Season 2 Part 13 of the Investigator Games with everybody's favourite painter, Sefina Rousseau. Yes, and for those of you who are brand spanking new to this channel, I welcome you heartily. For those who are veterans of this channel, I apologise for having to explain again what the Investigator Games are, but they are like the Hunger Games. We take each investigator one at a time, true solo, through a scenario, and we see how they go. Season 1 was The Gathering, and we took every investigator in Arkham Horror, the card game, through that. We're now in Season 2 with the Midnight Masks, and we're doing it all over again, and we are up to Part 13 here with Sefina Rousseau. And depending on how they do, they end up in a table like this one. And as we can see now, there's carryover points from the first season, and we can see that Roland Banks is still top of the table. He did very well. He was first off, and he managed to bag 5 cultists in 13 turns. Not far behind, though, is Arkham, who always does well, and he managed to bag 4 cultists, but it took him 14 turns. Then Zoe, really good outcome for Zoe because she didn't do very well in the first season. And then we have 3. We have Agnes, we have Mark, we have Minte Fan, all did reasonably well. And then from there we go down to poor old Jim Culver, who is currently languishing at 10 and didn't get any cultists and suffered a mental trauma. It was quite disastrous for poor old Jim. He was very, very unlucky. So here we are with Sefina Rousseau, and this is particularly an interesting one because she topped the table in Season 1. She managed to bag 7 victory points. Did very, very well, really was the one to beat. So she's starting here at quite an advantage, you might say, because if she can bag a few cultists along the way, then she has every possibility of equaling or doing even better than Roland and Arkham. But we will see how we go, because the Midnight Masks, you just never know how things are going to turn out. It can be a little bit all over the place. So before we start, spoilers, if you're new to the game, you've not played it before, I'm assuming you know how to play Arkham Horror the card game. This isn't sort of an introductory kind of video, so I would urge you to play the game in real life and go and check out some introductory videos. Just a spoiler warning there. Yeah, so just to remind myself, I really there's so many of these investigators now, I sometimes find it hard to remember what they all do. So at the very beginning, I do like to remind myself before I throw myself into it what they all do, for my purposes as much as anything. So here we have Sefina Rousseau, painter. She is an artist. Pretty good stat line, and sort of a bit of a min-max kind of stat line here. Very strong on agility and willpower with a 4 of each, but her fight and her intellect are below average, or strength and intellect on 2 apiece. And of course she is, if we just flip her over for a second, she's interesting in the sense that she can take rogue and mystic cards. So she's like a rogue mystic, which is an interesting mix, as we shall see. So she's a rogue mystic. Now she is particularly unusual. I like the way the Carcosa investigators, they really changed things up in terms of the way that they operated. And Sefina Rousseau, I think Lola is the other one, where they really kind of made quite a change in the way that they activate in the game. And Sefina is like that too. So with Sefina, things are a little bit different, that you, when you draw your opening hand, you actually draw 13 cards instead. Then you choose up to 5 events to place beneath this card, and you keep 8 cards in your opening hand, and you discard the rest. You can't mulligan. Now, you'd think, well, 8 plus 5 is 13, but the reason for that is you can choose up to 5 events to place beneath this card. You might not have 5 events. So one of the things with Sefina, of course, is that you want to stack your deck with lots of events, but not too many events. So you've got to try and kind of balance out that you're getting the 5, but you could get a bad draw where you don't get 5 events, you keep 8, and you've got to throw away the rest. So you put these events beneath the card, discard the rest, and then you can, as an action, you can choose an event and draw it. It doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity, so you can, it's essentially this sort of second hand, a little bit like, you know, the Joe Diamonds of this world, sort of kind of access to a second resource, set of resources. This is a little bit the same. Elder Sign is very strong, a +3, very, very high. And you may choose an event beneath this card and draw it, which is a very nice effect. So really positive. The other big downside with Sefina, of course, is she's very weak in terms of her physical agility. But again, with this min-max thing, she has lots and lots of mental strength to offset that. So the main thing is not to let her physical strength dwindle away too fast in that way. So that's Sefina in a nutshell. And if we have a look here, I've got here what I've done with her deck here in Arkham DB. Now, she started with her official Fantasy Flight game starter deck, and as we all know, they're not optimized. They're really kind of designed for somebody who has a starter pack. I guess it's the starter box and also, you know, Path to Carcosa. So necessarily it wouldn't be optimized. So there was things about it which were, I had 7 experience. So a lot of the experience was really to try to take out things which I didn't feel were particularly helpful and put in other things which I thought were. So a couple of things you can see here. We added in another Leo DeLuca because Leo DeLuca really, if you can get Leo on the board relatively early, it makes such a massive difference in terms of number of turns because you get an extra turn. We've got the Holy Rosary. We've got 2 of those now because we've also got Shriveling. We added a Shriveling in as well. And we've also taken out things like Arcane Studies. We took out Hard Knocks because they require quite an economy to use, which Sefina doesn't really have, so they didn't make a lot of sense. And then we've got lots of events. We've got 17 events, so lots and lots of events, so that when we draw our opening hand, we should be spoilt for choice in that way. We've got everything from Drawn to the Flame through to Sneak Attack, Sleight of Hand, you name it. We've got it all in there. Ward of Protection, which I added one of those in because Ward of Protection is a really nice card. And I added in 2 Sixth Sense. Reason I went down that path is that Midnight Mass is all about getting clues. And so I wanted, and we're a 2 intellect investigator, so I wanted to maximize the opportunity. We've got now 2 flashlights. We've got 2 Sixth Sense in there. We've got Drawn to the Flame in there, and we've also got something else. We got something else, or did I take out the other? Maybe I took out the other one. I think we might have had. I thought we had something else. No, maybe not. So we've got lots of different ways of getting clues. So hopefully that should stand us in good stead to make sure that we get what we need. Yes. Finally, I just realized it says 1 random basic weakness here, but the weakness that that Sefina drew in Season 1 was drawing the sign, so that's in her deck as well. Okay, so that's the deck. Don't know what you think about that, whether you think that's good, you would have done different things, I'm not sure. Be happy to hear what you think about that. But to me, that felt like the right things to do in terms of making changes. Okay, so let's pop up to and just have a look where we're at. So here's Sefina at the house, waiting to start. It's early morning in Arkham, and the Arkham Council, local council, very generously lets us use the city from about 4 a.m. to about 6:30, 7 a.m. before the traffic really starts to hit. I've already done the random south side and downtown, so I've already done all of those things. So that's ready to go. We're here in turn 1, of course. I'll just shuffle up the encounter deck. Here is the cultist deck, and I'll shuffle that up as well, so they're all ready to go. So all we need to do now is just read out the action agenda, and I think we can get going. So here we go. Agenda 1A, Predator or Prey. Lita seems convinced of a conspiracy within the city of Arkham. She believes that a secret cult serves the ghouls that live in the crypts beneath the city, and that several of the cult's prominent members are scattered throughout Arkham. As you begin searching for them, you can't shake the feeling that you too are being hunted. Action, resign. You don't want to risk taking too long, so you head to safety with the information you've gathered. And Act 1A, uncovering the conspiracy. You have 1 night to find the members of this cult and unveil their plan. The more members of the cult you can find and interrogate before midnight, the better. Action, investigators can spend 2 clues per investigator as a group. Draw the top card of the cultist deck. Objective, find as many unique cultist enemies as you can and add them to the victory display. If there are 6 unique cultist enemies in the victory display, advance. Note, not all of them are in the cultist deck. So I think we're all ready to go, and we just got to wait for... Yep, there it is. There goes the horn. And the crowd goes wild. Yes, and Sefina waves to the crowds in the streets. And I think we're ready to go in part 13 of the Investigator Games. So here we are with our deck. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, as we know, clues are something, so a 6th sense would be great. Obviously, Leo DeLuca would also be awesome, even though we've got to take some time to set him up. It's worth it. So if we can get Leo DeLuca, we can get 6th sense, and I think if we can get Shriveling and Holy Rosary, we can get all of those, and maybe a emergency cache. I think I'd be pretty happy with that. I doubt it's going to work that way, but we'll see how we go. Now, before I draw, let's draw the 5, because when you draw your opening hand, draw 13 cards instead. Then choose up to 5 events to place beneath this card, and keep 8 cards as your opening hand. So we've got to draw 13 cards. So I can't do 13 on Tabletop Simulator. So if I draw 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and another 4. It should be the 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's the 13 cards. There's no weaknesses in there, so that's good. Now, we've got to choose 5 events to place beneath here. Well, I think elusive is a good one, because we won't probably need elusive straight away, but it's one of those ones that will definitely come in handy. So I think we'll probably put elusive there. What other events have we got here? I don't think scrying. So scrying is an asset. So let's move scrying over here. Painted World is an event, but you can't place that beneath, so that's no good. That's a skill. That's an event. That's an asset. So let's just move all the assets to one side. That's an event. That's an event. That's an event. Another event. An asset. Okay. There we go. Flashlight, of course, isn't an event either. And Leo DeLuca is. There we go. So there we go. There's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 cards there. We've got to put 5 under here. Well, I think both elusives, they're really such good cards. So we put that under. Drawn to the Flame. We probably probably wouldn't use that straight away either, but then again, just trying to think what we would... Fast play, when you succeed a skill test, you get +2 value for this. Okay. Not really. Blinding light is evasion. Well, we are going to need that with the... we're probably going to need to use that because I noticed we didn't get our lovely scrying, our lovely shriveling in here. And water protection is good as well. So what have we got? We've got 2. We've got to put 3 under. So 3, 4... Do we put water protection under there, or do we put blinding light under there? I'll probably do that, because the thing about water protection is that it takes an action to choose an event, unless of course you get an elder sign. Now, water protection is something you don't use during your normally anyway during your turn. So it's not something, you want it in your hand ready to go in case, something happens. So it's probably best to have it in the hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our 8 cards, which is great. So the only thing that's unfortunate here is that we didn't get our shriveling, but those 8 cards are pretty good. So there we go. So we can put these underneath here. Let's move this to the side. Oops. Just got to try and remember what's in there, of course. So what have we got? We've got blinding light. We've got drawn to the flame, which is handy. Daring maneuver, and then 2 elusives, which will come in very handy, particularly later in the game when you draw a cultist and the cultist is somewhere else. Maybe I should actually rotate these. There we go. Okay. Oh. There we go. So I think we fulfilled all the criteria. When you would draw an opening hand, draw 13 cards, choose up to 5 events to place beneath the card, and keep 8 cards as your opening hand. Discard the rest. Well, we didn't need to do that. So I think if you draw weaknesses, I think you just draw weaknesses. I don't think you can mulligan as per normal, but luckily we didn't do that. So there we go. We're all done and we are ready to roll. So great. So here we are, ready to roll. Now the painted world, let me just have a look at this. You can't place this beneath Sefina. When you play the painted world, you can play the paint as an exact copy of a non-exceptional event that is beneath Sefina. That's great. So basically it's a copy of something else. So that's a very nice, I really like Sefina. Makes it very flexible in terms of using her. So what are we going to do? Well, I think we're going to have a bit of a setup phase. Like normally we'd be drawing resources and drawing cards, but at the moment I think we need to do a setup phase. We've got plenty of cards. We just need to get a lot of things out. So I think for our first action, I wonder if we should just take a resource and draw a card though, because we can do that anyway. Why don't we just draw a card and gain a resource, because we're going to do that anyway. So we'll get a resource and we will draw a card. Emergency cash, fantastic. Okay, so that was our first action. For our second action, we will, of course, why wouldn't we? We will play good old Leo DeLuca. So there we go. So that gives us an extra action. So let's grab another action token. Let's grab this one here. And just put him over here. So there we go, as an extra action. For our third action, we'll play emergency cash. Yep, so we gain 3 resources. And for our final action, think you know what we're going to do here. For our final action, we will bring out Sixth Sense, which is great. So that means we can now investigate using willpower. So that gives us an investigation of 4, so that's much better. And if we reveal a particular symbol, we can investigate at a different location instead. And you can use either shroud value. Wow, pretty amazing. So that's great. So that's all good. So that was 3. So that's pretty good setup. The only thing I'd like to get out is the Holy Rosary to give our willpower more of a boost. I really, really wish we had Shriveling or we had a weapon, but at the moment we don't. I feel a little bit sanguine about not rushing too much because we've now got 4 actions, so hopefully we can make up some of the time. But next time I think we get out the Holy Rosary, we get some clues, and hopefully we'll be able to bring out our first cultist next time, but we'll see how we go. And we've also got Ward of Protection, so if something nasty comes out, we can always manage that. And yeah, we've also got Drawn to Flames. We've got lots of ways to get clues, so I think we're pretty well set up. I just wish we had a weapon so that we could take on the Mass Hunter. At the moment, I don't think we have the capacity to do that, but we can evade the Mass Hunter, so it's no big deal. Okay, so that's the investigation phase. Pretty good start. We drew a resource and we drew a card as we can at the house. We then brought out Leo DeLuca. We then put in emergency cash, and then we brought out Sixth Sense. So there we go. All right, we move into the enemy phase. Of course, there's no enemies to speak of, so we move into upkeep, and we take another resource, and we draw another card, and we draw into Daring Maneuver. Yeah, I think this probably use this more for the wild card pip as much as anything, but anyway. Okay, so that's the end of the upkeep phase. So we come into the inaugural mythos phase. Everybody loves this one. Here we go. We're in turn 1. We're in turn 2 now. First Doom goes down. Let's see what the lovely encounter deck has for us. Oh, sorry, I didn't flip these, did I? And the encounter deck has for us Obscuring Fog. Attached to your location. Location gets +2 Shroud. Well, I could use Ward of Protection, but it seems like a bit of a pissy thing to be using Ward of Protection for. I mean, it does mean it is a Shroud of 4 rather than 2, but, you know, it's not the end of the world, quite frankly. So, there we go. So it's now a Shroud of 4. Okay, so that's the end of the mythos phase. So we move into the investigation phase. So what are we going to do here now? Well, yeah. Do we bring out the whole? It feels like a bit of a. I think. Well, we're a 4. So with Sixth Sense, it would be a 4 versus a 4. So I think we go ahead and investigate. I'm going to commit. I don't think we need the flashlight now, so I'm going to commit the flashlight to give us a 5. And I'm going to commit Daring Maneuver. So that gives us a 6. That gives us a 6 on a 4. So that's a -2 or better. Let's see how we go investigating. And we get a -1. Fantastic. So we get that clue. And of course, that gets rid of Obscuring Fog. Fog isn't going to get into Sefina's way. So that's the first clue down. So we can take that away. So we'll bring that up here and put it in the discard pile. There we go. There's Obscuring Fog. So that was our first action. So we got the clue. Our second action, we will move So we will move up to Rivertown, which is a one shroud location. So that was our move. So we investigated, we moved. We're going to investigate again. This time we're doing a 4 versus a 1. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign. Woohoo! Card goes wild. So with an Elder Sign +3, you may choose an event beneath a card and draw it. Absolutely. So which one? Which one do we go with? Probably we don't need Drawn to the Flame, so I might take Blinding Light at the moment. So we do have some way of evading. So if we get, one of those what do they call, hunting night gaunts or something, we've got a way of dealing with that. Okay, so that's the second clue. Very nice. So, where is it? Where is it? There we go. There's the second clue. So we've now got 2 clues. And I think for our final action, it's pretty obvious what we should do. We should spend those 2 clues and see what the first cultist is. So we're doing nice and quickly. We're getting our first cultist onto the board. So we'll go up to here, shuffle them up, and the first cultist is, let's just press 1 and put him into our hand. Ah, him. I should have said him, of course. It's a her. It's Virginia Devereaux. It's 5 resources. That's a bit more of a challenge for us. Well, I mean, we can, of course, fight her, of course, but we'll spend by and add her to the victory display. So she's at North Side. All right, so there we go. She's up at North Side. Where's she gone? Hello? Oh, there she is. So we'll put her at North Side. I mean, we've got a bit of time to get over there and build up some more resources, I guess, if we need to. Yeah, so we've got a bit of time. So, I mean, what I might do is, because we do need a few more resources, is maybe the better thing to do is to get some more clues, bring out some more cultists, and, because it might take us a little while to get the resources we need to do what we need to do. So there we go. So that was a pretty successful turn all around. We first of all successfully investigated the house with 6 cents. And we got a clue. We then moved to Rivertown. We then investigated again successfully. In fact, we got an Elder Sign, which meant we could draw Blinding Light. And then with our final action, we brought out Ms. Devereaux, who is now sitting at Northside waiting for 5 resources. So that's the end of the turn. So I think next time we keep getting some more clues, maybe bring out some more cultists, rather than trying to rush up there and spend money when we don't have the money. We may get emergency cash as we go. So we'll see how we go. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we'll move straight into upkeep. We will flip these. Yeah, we will take a resource. We'll draw another card, and we draw into Shriveling. There we go, very nice. So that's the problem, I suppose, with Sefina's deck, is that nice cards, just do we have the resources to do it? We definitely want Shriveling down on the table, and then, of course, it would be great to have the Holy Rosary as well, because that makes us really, really, really strong from a fight perspective. And this is and we have 2 of these, so that's good. All right, that's excellent. Okay, so that's the end of upkeep phase, but we can probably say goodbye to all our positivity, because now we've moved into, of course, the dreaded mythos phase. So we're into turn 3. We're already halfway through. So this is the other thing. Things move. Sorry, we're not halfway through. What am I talking about? We're a third of the way through. So still okay. We're in turn 2. We've got 2 Doom down. We're in turn 3. Let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And it has I thought this one might come up. Wings of Darkness. Well, we're already... Basically, we're not going to go anywhere. It's a test 4, and we are indeed a 4. Now, again, do I use Water Protection? I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I really don't think so. I might just, if I fail this, I fail this, whatever. 1 damage and 1 horror. I think we can wear that. We've got Leo down. So let's see what the Chaos bag has for us. It's a 0. So we actually pass. Wow. There we go. So no problem at all. Sefina doesn't, just brushes it off. No problem. That was great. Okay. So here we are back in the investigation phase. Okay. So whilst we could start rushing off for clues again, yes, what we need to do is, I don't want to waste time. Like I could wait another turn before bringing shriveling onto the table. That feels like that's not a good idea. I'm just trying to think. Do we waste the time and take a resource now? I think so. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a resource, and then I'm going to immediately spend those resources to bring out shriveling. There we go. So we're now set up from that perspective. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the time-honored traditional thing. I'm going to move to south side. South side. And which one did we get this time? We got Mars boarding house at last. Not that we need to use the search your deck for an ally asset because we've got an ally asset. So we don't need to do that. But what we can do, it's a Shroud of 2. So that was our third action. So let's go ahead and investigate. So it's a 2 versus a 4. If we're using Sixth Sense. So it's a 2 versus a 4. -2 or better. -1, so we succeed. There we go. So we get this clue. Fantastic. Okay. So there we go. That was another reasonably successful round. What did we do? We took a resource. We brought out shriveling. We then moved to south side and we got a clue. So what I'm going to do next time is move to St. Mary's Hospital, get some more clues and hopefully get out another cultist. Yeah, and do it that way. And then once we have a couple of resources, we can bring out the Holy Rosary. And then maybe once we've got that down, we can start thinking about getting enough resources to go and get Ms. Devereaux. So there we go. That's the end of the investigation phase. That's pretty good all round. So let's move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies well, there are enemies, but they're not doing anything. So let's move into upkeep. And we'll flip these over. There we go. We will take a resource and we will draw a card. And what do we draw into? We draw into our weakness, which is better now than later. Stars of Hades, randomly choose an event beneath Sefina Rousseau and remove it from the game. If you cannot, take 1 damage and 1 horror. If your deck has 5 or more cards in it, shuffle Stars of Hades back into a deck. Okay, so randomly choose an event. Okay, and remove it from the game. All right. Okay, let's flip these over. Let's give them a good shuffle. Remove it from the game, right? So it doesn't even go into your discard pile. So we lose one of the elusives. Well, that's a bit of a bugger, but thankfully we've got a couple of them. So we'll just put it over there. Put Sefina Rousseau back. that was a bit of a bugger that we lost our elusive, and I think we shuffle this back into our deck, I think. Is that right? 5 or more cards in it. Shuffle Stars of Hades back into your deck instead of discarding it. Yeah. So put it back into the deck. Shuffle back up. Okay. Well, that was a bit of a unfortunate draw, but never mind. I mean, we did lose an elusive, but we do have a second one. In fact, with the Painted World, we've kind of got 2 of them. Anyway. All right, so that's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the mythos phase. Let's go back up here. So we're now in turn 4. We are now halfway through. No cultists yet, but you know, we're on the way to doing that. So let's see what the good old encounter deck has for us. And it's got an acolyte. We're going to put this acolyte somewhere where we can attack it. Now I feel like, yeah, let's put the acolyte here because I don't want to mess around with an extra doom. I think it's worthwhile killing the acolyte. It's really just it's kind of a turn tax, really. We'll put the acolyte here. Okay. Alrighty, so let's move into the investigation phase. Okay, so what do we want to do? Do we want to... well, I think... what's the acolyte's strength? He's a 3. You're a 4. I think we should be okay. I was thinking whether we hold back and get the Holy Rosary out. But that takes 2 actions. I feel like that's getting really inefficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move. I'm going to move to St. Mary's Hospital. So there we go. So the acolyte is now engaged with us. So that's our first action. Our second action, we will shrivel the acolyte. So that means we use willpower. So we're a 4 versus a 3. I'm going to make that a 5 versus a 3 with an opportunist. Do we use anything else? Blinding light? Yeah, 6 versus 3. Let's go 6v3. 6v3. Chaos bag. This is an auto fail. Ah dear, so we failed. Boy, that's annoying. Oh, that's annoying. And that means using another shriveling as well. That's so annoying. That's so annoying. What have we got under here? Forget now. Got elusive. We got drawn to the flame, and I think something with daring maneuver. Oh, that's so annoying. Let's do it again. Sorry, I'm going to shrivel again. I'm going to throw in the ward of protection, which I didn't really want to do, but that gives us a 4. That gives us a 5 versus a 3. Chaos bag gives us a 0, so we succeed and we kill the acolyte. I think that was our third action, wasn't it? Yeah, we moved, we shriveled to a shrivel. We've got 1 action left, so let's go ahead and investigate. It's a Shroud of 2. With 6 Sense, we are a 4, so I think we just go ahead and do a 2 versus a 4, and we get a cultist, which is a -2. Place 1 doom on the nearest cultist enemy. Aha. So that would be Virginia, I think. So even though we got rid of 1 doom, we got another one, which is annoying. But anyway, we've got 2 clues now. So there we go. Those are our actions. So that was a bit of a mixed bag. So we moved. We attempted to shrivel the acolyte and failed. We shriveled again and succeeded. And then we took the clue, we investigated. Unfortunately, in the process, we had to put a doom down on the nearest cultist. So now we should probably be trying to get rid of that cultist. And I was hoping to get the Holy Rosary out, but I think that's probably what we need to do. So that's the end of the investigation phase. We move into the enemy phase, then we move into the upkeep phase. So let's flip those over. Let's give ourselves another resource. Let's draw ourselves a card, and we draw into the other shriveling. That's great. So we've got another shriveling if we use this one up. So that's very nice. Now I just realized actually I drew an auto fail, didn't I? If you do that, then you're supposed to take a horror. So I should have taken a horror. I'm sure you're all screaming at me for that. And I realized earlier, I think when I investigated, I used an intellect and a wild card when I actually should have been using willpower. So I think I was fine. I think I still passed it. I can't remember now. But I realized I probably didn't do that correctly. So I'm sorry. Sometimes we make mistakes. None of us play this game perfectly, even though we would like to, so I do apologize for that. Okay, so, yep, that's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the mythos phase. So we go up here. So we're now in turn 5. There are 4 doom down, but in fact, there's 5 doom down. So we do need to deal with Virginia Devereaux because if we don't, then it's going to flip. So that's kind of unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So we're going to need to deal with her one way or the other next time. Okay, let's see what the encounter deck has for us, and it has a locked door. This is where this isn't too bad because the textual location with the most clues. Now, that can go anywhere. So let's just stick a locked door at the house because that was a good time to get that. That was a bit of a hospital pass there. That was fantastic. So let's move into the investigation phase. Here we are. We've got 2 resources. Now, if we don't deal with Virginia Devereaux this time, we are going to have the Mars Hunter on us. So we kind of got 2 choices. We either wear that or we attempt to deal with it. Now, the problem is if we move up to Devereaux, that will take 2 actions and only leave us with 2 actions. We can't get up to 5 resources. We don't have an emergency cache. We've only got 2 resources. So the only way to deal with it is to shrivel her, which we can do in 2 turns. But that's quite difficult because we're a 4 and she's a 3, so that's a -1 or better. So that feels kind of difficult to do, actually. Yeah. So maybe that's not such a great idea because the chances of us succeeding twice is low. We don't really have many ways to boost our willpower, so I'm not feeling like that's a great idea. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but now I've changed my mind. So we're here at St. Mary's Hospital. In that case, the Mars Hunter will be out next time. So I think we need to get ready for the Mars Hunter. I can't remember. Oh, the Mars Hunter's 6, isn't it? So, but easy to evade. So, what do we do here? Oh, we've got clues, haven't we? So maybe this is the thing. What we'll do first is we will spend the 2 clues. Yep, we will spend the 2 clues and we will bring out the next cultist. So we know what we're dealing with earlier. So let's bring out the next cultist, and the next cultist is Herman Collins. always like seeing Herman Collins because he's in the graveyard, and we just need 4 cards for him. So he's in the graveyard. So that's Herman Collins. That's our first action. Our second action is I'm going to spend the 2, and I'm going to bring out the Holy Rosary. So we now have a willpower of 5. So that was our second action. Now we've got 2 actions left. So there's a couple of things I could do. I could bring out move and try and bring out Drawn to the Flame or something like that. I don't feel like that's what we need to do. I feel like we need enough resources that we can bring out a second Shriveling, because if we're going to deal with the Masked Hunter, we're going to need another Shriveling. So I think I'm going to take 2 resources so that we can do that. So I'm going to take 2 resources so that now we're ready for the Masked Hunter. So when the Masked Hunter arrives, we've got some options. He's fairly easy to evade. We can also elusive him. And we'll have the resources to sort of shrivel him, evade him, something like that. We can do a few different things, so that gives us the most flexibility. And then we can then think about what we do with Virginia Devereaux and Herman Collins as well. But I think if we can get the Masked Hunter, Virginia Devereaux, and Herman Collins, if we can get those 3 cultists, that's pretty good going. So we'll see how we go, and maybe Drawn to the Flame can give us a couple more clues and a victory point, maybe at Miskatonic University or something like that. So we will just see how we go. But that's the end of the investigation phase. So kind of another setup phase. Trying to think what we did now. It seems so long ago. What did we do? We brought out the next cultist, Herman Collins. That was the first thing we did. He's going to be an easy one for us to get as long as we've got cards, and we've got ways of drawing cards from under Sefina as well. We then brought out the Holy Rosary to give ourselves a boost to our willpower. So we're now fighting with 5 willpower. And then we took 2 resources. So therefore we're ready for the Masked Hunter. All right, so we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to worry about. So we move into upkeep. So we get another resource, and we draw a card, and we draw into the Derringer, which we could bring out. We've got the hand slots for it. Although we're not the greatest fighters in the world, but anyway, it's there. Okay, so that's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the good old mythos phase, and this is where it all happens now. So we're in turn 6. Doom 5, but it's now Doom 6. That goes down to 0. So that's... Oh, shouldn't have put that in the trash. So that flips. Yep. And we've got the Masked Hunter. Hello, Sefina. Oh, I'm going to bash you. There we go. So there's the Masked Hunter. 4 fight, 2 evasion, 6 health. Yep. There he is. Oh, and that Doom comes off of Virginia Devereaux. So we can take that Doom off and drop that in the little Doom thing. There we go. So we've got 8 turns left. Not a lot of time, but we've got 3 cultists to deal with. So I don't think we need to... I mean, the only other reason that we might go for clues, of course, is to get ourselves some victory points, which is always important in the Investigator Games. But right now, the thing is to deal with the cultists that we've got, because if we can get these cultists, that's going to stand us in good stead. So there we go. Now, let's see what the counter deck has for us. Counter deck has a false lead. If you have no clues, it gains surge. So we'll draw again. No. Oh boy, it's all happening. Right. So thank goodness for elusive, because there's no way I'm going to... I mean, I could spend 2 turns evading both of them. But to be honest, it's really... Having both of them on us is just a pain in the backside, quite frankly. That's really what I didn't want to draw. But anyway, yes, we could spend each time doing 2 evasions, 2 shrivelings, 2 evasions, 2 shrivelings. I mean, we could do that because they're fairly low. Okay. So we move into the investigation phase. So here we are. We've got a hunting 9 gaunt and a mass hunter on us. So we've got a choice here. We could play the painted world as an elusive, and we could disengage with both of these, and we could move to a location that's already open to us. Now we've got to be really careful about going to the graveyard, because we can end up in a place where we're essentially boxed in. So often the graveyard is a good place to end, because it's a good place to end. So we'd probably go to Rivertown, and then start from there, and probably move to Miskatonic, and then up to Northside and deal with Virginia Devereaux that way. How many resources have we got? We've got 3? We have. So what we could do is we could elusive away to Rivertown. Then we could take 2 resources. Oh no, movement. No, that's not going to work. We've got to be really careful because they're not evaded. They are... so yes, we could move to Rivertown, but then what we'd need to do is take 2 turns to move to where Devereaux is, and then probably shrivel her to death. So that's one option. Elusive to Rivertown, move up to Northside, deal with Victoria Devereaux, and then get these 2 guys, the Mouse Hunter and whatever, to start following us around the houses. That would be the way to do that. And then we could go around to the graveyard or something. So that would be one way of dealing with it, which would give us time to get more resources and then get out the next shriveling. The other option, so that's one option, which is sort of the safe option, I guess. The other option is we spend 2 of our actions evading. And then once they're evaded, we then spend our other actions shriveling. Now this may take some time, because we might miss, we're going to miss pull a evasion, so we might end up just having 1 action. But that would bag us 2 victory points if we manage to kill the Masked Hunter. Maybe we should try that, because if it's not working out, I can always go ahead and do the elusive, see how we go. Maybe I should try that first, because I would like this, and running around with these guys can be a bit annoying. So maybe that's the thing to do, is to see whether we can kill the Masked Hunter. I mean, even if we don't evade the Night Gaunt, it's just 1 of each, so it's not the end of the world. So I think we'll go ahead and do that. Why don't we go ahead and do that? Because I think rather than... Because the other alternative is we just racing around and these guys following us, and 2 victory points seems like it's in our grasp. Although we're a 5 versus a 4, so we're only at a -1 or better. Which isn't great, to be honest, because if I'm looking here, highest number of doom, yeah, I guess there's no doom on any cultist enemies. So actually we've got a reasonable chance at a -1, I suppose, of succeeding. It's not great, and we don't really have any other ways of boosting our willpower I'd be better at a -2. So it feels like we've got to be much luckier than, yeah. I feel like we could waste a lot of time and get ourselves, we could be lucky, we could be fine. We could evade, we could do lots of damage. But at the moment, I feel like there is easier things to do. So I am going to play the Painted World. So basically, as an exact copy of, and that gets removed from the game, not into the discard pile. So that was elusive, wasn't it? Let me just flip. Yeah, so that's cost 2. I was just remembering what it was. So it cost 2. So both of these, we disengage from both of these. It's a fast action. Let's just group them. Flip them. Ah, boy, come on. It's not gonna, for some reason it doesn't put them together. Doesn't matter. All right, so we'll leave them here at St Mary's Hospital. We will move back to Rivertown. Yep. Okay, so that was, and it's a fast action. It doesn't, it's not an action in and of itself. Yep. So there we go. All right, so that's what we'll do first. Then what we're going to do is we are going to move to... Now, we could, like I said, we could move here and deal with Herman Collins, but I feel like it's better off that we do something with Devereux first. So we move to Miskatonic University. We'll flip that over. Okay. Yes, so that's the first thing we're going to do. So that was our first action. Now we could go ahead and take an action to do Drawn to the Flame. Then we could take another action to get the things. But I think what we do for our second action is we deal with Devereux. We move. We move up because we're not going to get the 5 resources. We just don't have it. Flip that. This is also a victory. And so she's in our threat area. For our third action, we're going to shrivel Devereux. So she's a 3 and we are a 5. So a 3 versus a 5. -2 or better. Chaos Bag gives us -3. Ah, dear. Things are... Hello? Things are not working out like they were. And for our final action, I think we go ahead and shrivel again. Or do we evade? Probably better to evade her, isn't it? No, because we want to... I think we go ahead and shrivel her again because otherwise, because we'll need the other shriveling out. So we evade again. So we shrivel again. So that was a 5 versus a 3. Chaos Bag. Oh, no, really? Really? If you fail, place one of your clues on your location. We don't have any, but that's 2 fails. That was really, really rough. Ah, boy. I'm really glad, though, that we didn't try to deal with the Mouse Hunter and whatnot, because that wouldn't have worked. So anyway, it's better that we just take the damage from Virginia Devereux. So there we go. That was a pretty disastrous turn. We used elusive to get out of the situation we were in with the Mouse Hunter and the Hunting Night Gaunt. We then spent 2 turns to move up to Northside. We engaged Virginia Devereux and failed with our shriveling twice in a row, and I think we take a horror as well. Yes, we do, so we get a horror as well. So there we go. No biggie, we can deal with her next time. But that was really, really, really annoying. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase now. We do have enemies here now. So these enemies, so we've just got to be aware of this because both of these enemies are now here at Miskatonic University, so we really do need to be aware of that. So we move into the upkeep phase, we get a resource, and we draw a card. Okay. Oh boy, okay, let's shuffle these up. What do we lose this time? Oh, we lose our drawn to the flame. Oh dear. Never mind. That's a little bit unfortunate, but anyway. Okay. All right. Okay, that's our upkeep. Unfortunately, we didn't get a card. Yeah. So let's move into the mythos phase. So let's shift up here. So we're in turn 7. First doom goes down. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And the encounter deck is Hunting Shadow. You must either spend a clue, which we can't, so we've got to take 2 damage. So I think we put a damage on ourselves and we stick a damage on Leo. Okay, so we will move into the investigation phase. Now we're here with Devereaux. So I think the first thing that we do, now we've got to think about this because, oh boy, we're going to have to get out of here. We might have to drag her with us because what we're going to need to do is evade her first of all. So our first action is evasion. So it's a 2 versus a 4. And I think we fail again. We fail. So we will do it again. 2 versus a 4. Yep. So she's evaded. And now, because of that, because we failed twice, we can't stay here. So we're going to have to move. Oh, this is so frustrating. Things were going really well, and now we can't seem to get anything now. This is really frustrating. This is what this is what makes the Midnight Masks really frustrating, is that things can seem to be going well, and then you just draw the wrong card, or your draws just don't go your way, and very quickly things can really be difficult. And I don't want to move again because then they'll move this way. I want them to follow me. Oh boy. Okay, so we are here at downtown. I could take a clue, but quite frankly, I'm not even dealing with the. So I'm going to take a resource, because if we're going to get back to Devereaux, we're going to need 5 resources. So I'm going to take a resource, and we also need we need another shriveling on the table. So there we go. That was incredibly annoying. We failed to evade, but Devereaux, we did it again, but then we had to move out, and then I took a resource. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase, and both of these enemies move up to here. So we move into the upkeep phase, so I take another resource. We'll flip these over. Devereaux also is back over. Just seem to be running around, and we're not doing anything that we need to do. Okay, and what else? We draw a card. Yes. And we draw backstab. Well, that's good. That's something. Okay. Excellent. All right. So we move into the mythos phase. Let's shift up to here. We're now in turn 8. Two down. We're already quarter of the way through. Yeah, quarter of the way through. And still nothing to show for it. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And it has another acolyte. So that's just going to make the doom go even faster, which I can't afford to happen. So I'm going to put the acolyte here in East Town and put doom on that acolyte. Okay. All right. So we move into the investigation phase. Okay. Well, first thing we need to do is we need another shriveling. So we might as well do that now. So down to 1. So bring out the second shriveling. There we go. I think then we move to East Town. What's this say? Choose copies of the asset you play by 2. Oops. Let's engage with the acolyte. All right. Okay. So we moved, and then we will shrivel the acolyte. So we are a 5 versus a 3, -2 or better. We succeed. So the acolyte is dead, and then we got one final action left. Again, I don't really need the clues. I've got the people down on the board, although we could, because then we might be able to. Do we take a resource or do we do a clue? I think we probably do the clue. So it's a 2 versus a 5 with 6 cents. 2 versus 5. Chaos bag is -1, so we succeed and we get the clue from East Town. So there we go. So we brought out our new shriveling. We moved to East Town. We defeated the acolyte and we took the clue. So reasonably okay. What are we going to do next time? Well, they're going to be chasing us this way. So I guess they'll be there. We can move down to Rivertown and into the graveyard and probably deal with Herman Collins. Yes, and then that should give us enough time to get out again and get round to Virginia Devereaux. So hopefully we can do all that. So that's the plan. So the plan is they will move to downtown. We'll move Rivertown Graveyard. We'll have 4 cards. Or maybe we move Rivertown, take a, because we don't want to lose probably the backstab we want to keep, so we might take a card from our event deck, move in, get rid of Herman Collins, then we can get the clues from the graveyard and move out before these guys catch up with us, and then hopefully by then we'll have enough resources to take Virginia Devereaux, and if we can get all that done in the time, I think we're doing well. Okay, so that's the plan. All right, so we move into the enemy phase. The enemies, they of course move. This is always ends up this sort of Benny Hill kind of thing. Like if the Night Gaunt, if that hadn't come out, we would have taken on the Masked Hunter, but it was just a bit much with both. All right, so they're there. So we move into the upkeep phase. We get another resource. We draw a card. We draw into Sleight of Hand. Put the Derringer out into play, which could be handy. That could be handy, but we're probably going to lose it in the process anyway. That's the end of the upkeep phase. So we move into the mythos phase. So here we go. We're in turn 9. There are now 3 doom down. We're really running out of time. We've really got to get moving. We've got no cultists, no victory points at all. Let's see what the mythos deck has, and it has, oh no, mysterious chanting. Place 2 doom on the nearest cultist enemy. That's got to be the Masked Hunter. That really makes makes things hard now. Because the problem is now, that's now brought that up to 5. So if we don't, this is really forcing us to deal with the Masked Hunter, because if we don't, we'll run out of time and we won't have done anything. So the question is, do we just go in and deal with the Masked Hunter? I think we're going to have to now. That's, oh boy, that's terrible. Yeah. So anyway, that's a really, really awful. Okay, so here we are in the investigation phase. I feel like we have to do something with this Masked Hunter, because if we don't, we are going to be in all kinds of worlds of pain. So first action. We are going to move back here. Just going to have to see how it goes. We'll move these guys down to here, so they're in our threat area. Yeah. So that's our first action. Our second action, okay. So I think the second action is probably to backstab. I think so. So our second action, we're going to backstab. Oh, we can't. No, it's not going to work. We will end up dead. We will end up dead. It's not going to work. Sorry, I'm taking that back. I'm going to leave those there. We're here. I'm just going to have to deal with very little time. So instead, I'm going to move to Rivertown, and I'm going to move into the graveyard. So the graveyard, so here we go. After you enter the graveyard, test 3. If you fail, you all right, whatever. Okay, so we took 2 actions to move to the graveyard. We do a 5 versus a 3. We succeed, so we don't take any horror. Herman Collins is on us. So we'll take Herman Collins and basically discard 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we get our first victory point. And the crowd goes wild. Wasn't it? Discard 4 cards. That was also an action. Great. Let me just make sure I got that right. So we started here. We moved to... and then we took an action to spend 4 cards. We've got 1 action left. Let's investigate. We don't have Drawn to the Flame anymore, so we will just straight up investigate. 1 versus 5 with 6 cents. Oh boy, no, not again. -2. Another doom goes down on the nearest cultist enemy. So, oh no. But we get the clue. Okay, that's the end of the investigation phase. So I think next time, I mean, we are really, it's already at 6, it'll be at 7, so we'll have 1 turn. Basically, we can get this final clue, which will give us another victory point. And that's, I think that's pretty much all we can do, I think. Oh boy, how frustrating. Okay, all right, let's move into the enemy phase. So these 2 enemies move across. Then we'll move into the upkeep phase. So we get another resource. We draw a card. Yeah. Flip these over. Okay, so we move into the mythos phase. So yes, indeed, we're in turn 10. That's the 4th doom. So there's now 7 doom down on the table. So this is we've got to resign this turn. So yep. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. It has got obscuring fog. Of course it does. So that turns the graveyard from a 1 to a 3. A 1 to a 3. Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll move into the investigation where we've got 4 actions. First action, let's investigate. So it's a 3 versus a 5. A 3 versus a 5. Yep, we succeed. So we get the clue and a victory point. So that's the clue. We'll copy that. We'll move that into the into there, and the crowd goes wild. Got 3 actions left. Basically, we've got 2 actions because we need to resign. We might as well resign because there's nothing more we can, like, it's not like we can move and do Drawn to the Flame, for example. No. So we might as well resign. There we go. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Things were going so well, and then suddenly they didn't. So, what? Yeah, so the problem was that it was the Masked Hunter turned up, but we ended up with the Hunting Night Gaunt, and we could have tried to take both of them on. The Chaos Draw, it was a correct decision because the Chaos Draw was then horrendous. We couldn't even defeat Victoria Devereaux. So then we ended up racing around and eventually got to Herman Collins and got him. So we did get 2 victory points. But the problem was that then we drew cards which meant a whole lot of doom went down onto the Masked Hunter, and the whole thing finished so very fast. So, I mean, you know, we're in turn 10, and if we look at the, you know, you can get 13, 14 turns. So we really lost a whole bunch of turns, and we know that time is such a precious resource in the Midnight Masks. But that's the way it goes in Arkham Horror the card game, and also in the Investigator Games. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Now next time, who will we be running through the Investigator Games with? So that was with Sefina. So next time, it'll be Akachi's turn to step up to the plate. And we will see how she goes. But until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.